Hello, Make Idaho Better fans. It's time for another analysis video. First off, if you've ever seen one of these before, it's always the same. Got to tell you what Make Idaho Better is. Okay. Make Idaho Better is designed to be the easiest way to be a part of state and local solutions. So there's a lot of ways you can get involved, but often they take quite a bit of time. You got to show up somewhere, a specific place at a specific time, and it's not that easy. And they don't come around that often, those opportunities. I tried to make the easiest way for you to contribute to problem solving on a regular basis, a super easy way. All it entails is joining my email list and responding to the surveys that I send you. So you can see, and the other cool thing is, like, whatever surveys you respond to, you get to see all the results, the overall results, and my analysis for free. I'm trying to help you make your voice heard and make that voice, bring it to the leaders that can do something about it. So if that's interesting to you, click on do your part and join the list, and you'll get the surveys and the results. So this week, we're talking about our most recent survey, which was about animal abuse. So Boise City Council member TJ Thompson and I met up, and I asked him, what do you think are some of the biggest issues in Idaho right now, currently and coming up? And one thing that he mentioned is he's a big animal lover, and he thinks that there's a lot of room for improvement on how we deal with animal abuse. And I said, awesome. I hadn't thought of that, but let's do it. So came up with a survey and got the questions ironed out, sent it out. He sent it out to his followers. I sent it out to our followers. And we've got 820 responses, actually 822. This is screenshots, not up to date. That's a lot. Our previous record was 380. That's crazy. So that was a huge record for us. Really excited about it. These are big numbers, and actually not, traditional polling costs tens of thousands of dollars and doesn't always get this many responses. And I'm able to do this more or less for free. So this is like really making this affordable and possible to make a big impact for people. So guys like TJ Thompson that wants to do something about this, but doesn't have the budget for something like that, can really get a grip on what people are thinking, and act on that. So the analysis is here, but the results, if you click that link, you get to see the overall results. So these are the questions we asked, and this is how everybody answered. You get to see it all. Anything that's personally identifiable is not included on here. So if you responded, your email address isn't on here. I didn't include the demographics on here either. Now the analysis. So this is for everybody, but you're not able to like slice and segment these results on your own because you don't have the raw data, the spreadsheet essentially. But I do, so I can go deeper. So I do that analysis and I interpret it in these posts, and you can check it out. I'm putting this video together to walk you through it if you want that. So my main takeaways are, our respondents are big animal lovers. Almost all of them grew up with pets. Almost all of them have pets. 93% of them have pets currently. About 50% of them have 3 or more pets. But almost all of them have witnessed animal abuse. And 20% of them have witnessed it on a monthly or more often basis, which is kind of bad and kind of shocking to me, actually. And then the other big takeaway I had was they're really concerned about animal abuse and think we need to do a lot better to prevent it. They think that the current laws and enforcement are not enough and it doesn't get enough attention. So you don't need to take my word for it. I'll show you. Here's a table of contents of everything in here. It's a long post, so you know what's coming and you can skip to a section if you'd like. Analysis posts, I kind of mentioned it. Go deeper than those overall results. So take that and then slice it and dice it to find the stories that are below the surface. And here's the link to those, to the page we were at before, this one. So first off, it's really important to think about the sample's demographics. So who did we hear from? So I always put these at the beginning of the analysis posts. These gray bars mean I don't know. So we had a lot of people respond to their first survey with Make Idaho Better over this last couple weeks, which is great. It also means that they don't have answer history for us to pull in from previous surveys like some of the others do. I'm implementing a solution where we're going to have demographics for all the respondents. And if we've already asked you that before, then you just don't get asked those questions next time. But that didn't quite work this week how I hoped it would. So we're kind of in the same boat as we were in the past. So some of the people we don't have that for. But of the people that we do know their breakdown, heard from way more women than men, which Facebook was also telling me this when I posted the survey, is that like women were 10 times more interested in this topic than men, which I thought was really interesting. Do women have bigger hearts than men? Probably. I don't know. On age, this is actually a great one for us because we're like almost, equally spread here. It's like a nice curve and it's almost even. So in the past, we're typically have more in like 30s and 40s, but this is pretty even for us, which is nice. For county, almost everybody's from Ada County that we know of. There's this big group we don't know of, right? That makes sense to me this week because Boise City Council member TJ Thompson shared it with all of his followers, and he got about, 40% of the responses came from him, I think. So that makes sense that a lot of them came from Ada County. And then here, almost everybody we heard from has pets currently. So we can keep that in mind. These are people that have pets, interact with animals on a regular basis. Okay, so let's dive into it. Well, the first question I asked was a context question. I wanted to know did you grow up with pets? Because with a lot of our Make Idaho Better surveys, I think it's really helpful to know what your own personal experience is with a topic, whether that's with homelessness, or marijuana, or like those other things. If you're hearing all this secondhand, what other people think and say about it, I think that has a big impact on what your views are compared to if you've experienced something yourself. So I always try to get an experience question here. And about 90% of our respondents did grow up with pets. That's actually pretty crazy. So if you look at this article I linked to here, it's estimating that Idaho has about 70% of households have a pet. So we are hearing from more, pet experienced people than average, which isn't bad. We still learn a ton from them, but we just need to keep that in the back of our mind. So this isn't like if we polled everybody in the state, we wouldn't get the exact same thing. So we need to remember that. All right, I asked how many pets they have, and it looks like this in the weighted average chart. I put the table here to illustrate that, like, I asked 0, 1, 2, or 3 or more for the main pet categories, which are dogs, cats, birds, horses, fish. I included other. So you can see from that dogs are the most common, and then cats. I'm not surprised by that, but it doesn't tell us like what the overall, like how many pets people actually have. It just tells us what percent have this many. So, but I have that data, so I was able to calculate that, add it up. So if you said 3 or more, I just assumed 3. And then, if you had three or more fish, that counted as 3 or more pets, 3 pets actually. And this is how the distribution went for total number of pets of our survey respondents. So I don't know about you, but this looks like a lot of pets to me. It's like about half or a little over half are 3 or more pets. Got a pretty big percentage here 4% that are 10 or more, and we had some that are 15, that are up at 15 pets. So some serious pet lovers. And there was some discussion of overcrowding in the survey. I'm hoping those households aren't overcrowded. Given that you care enough about to answer an animal abuse survey, I'm guessing you're pretty responsible, but yeah. Okay, so then I was also curious, not that it really impacted the analysis, but I was curious, there's dog people and there's cat people. What kind of people are these people? So I wanted to basically see what's the type of pet you have the most of if you have multiple. I have one dog and that's it. So I'm a dog person. So I did this analysis for everybody else and like, which pet do you have the most of? And we were about 70% dogs, 20 to 25% cats, and then we were spread out on these other ones. So mostly dogs and cats. Also, again, not surprising, but we got some here: fish people, bird people, horse people, and other people. If you want to check out those others, you can click on these comments here. Check those out. Guinea pigs, donkeys. Okay. Next, we're starting to get into abuse, what we know about abuse. Got quite a bit of context now about who the types of people are we've been talking to. So I asked, have you witnessed what you consider to be animal abuse before? And I asked, how often? Daily, weekly, monthly, yearly, a few times in my life, or never? This should have been once or a few times. Because if you did it once, I guess you have to say a few times, even if that's not true. So, my bad. But yeah, less than 10% said they've never seen it. 20% about said they see it on a monthly basis or more often. We're almost in about 7.5% say on a weekly basis or more. That's kind of crazy. I think that means that you have maybe an abusive neighbor. That you see with their animals and they're not treating them right, which is really sad. Yeah, so I broke that down. I was trying to think how to break this down. I wanted to use a demographic, and I decided to use age because I had a hypothesis that perhaps there's a generational difference here. Like there were some comments that people left that perhaps it was more tolerated to be rough and maybe be more physical or more punishing of animals in the past than it is now. So like I wanted to check that. So it's the same thing. So these bars represent all the responses within each group. So this is all the people that responded that were 20 or in their teens or 20s. These are all the people that were in their 30s. And the size of the chunk that's a certain color shows us the proportion that answered they witnessed animal abuse on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, for instance. So you look at this, you're looking at the difference in the sizes of these bars to see if there's any divergence across the ages. And it doesn't really look like it to me. So, it's about 25% are not green, meaning that it's yearly or more often. That's pretty much across the board. I mean, I think the only thing that kind of stands out to me here that's I think a little noteworthy is this dark green. Hopefully people don't have issues with that color differentiation. But the never people, there's more people in their teens or 20s that have never experienced animal abuse than these other ages. That kind of makes sense to me because they haven't been around as long and maybe they haven't had as many life experiences where that could occur. So besides that, I think I was wondering if we would see a lot less in older generations because they have a different definition of what they think animal abuse is than what younger people. Doesn't seem to be the case. Okay, but let's get into that. What really is animal abuse? It's kind of hard to figure that out in a survey question, so I didn't try to get people to describe it as much as I wanted them to react to certain scenarios. So these are the scenarios: leaving a pet in a hot car, leaving a pet out in the cold, not providing food or water, organized dog fighting, overcrowding a home with pets, or physically punishing a pet. So this is the weighted average view, but we have it here too, and this shows kind of how many people said it's always, usually, sometimes, rarely, or never abuse. So this shows that the top one considered abuse is organized dog fighting. Not surprised there. I kind of put that there expecting everybody was going to say that's abuse because I think it's pretty obvious. But then I wanted like an anchor one. I expect everybody to do one thing here, and then I wanted to put another one, which I thought hardly anybody would say that's abuse, and then have a bunch of things in the middle. So I thought physically punishing a pet would be very rarely considered abuse, because actually that's how you're taught to train dogs, for instance. Like, you need to correct them often with a choke collar, and like not all the time, but when they do the wrong thing, you're supposed to give them, a tug, and then that's how they learn. But you can't really see it from this view, but with this view, we can kind of see again the proportions here. So dog fighting was like, almost 100% considered always abuse. Then physical punishment was 40%, between the 60 line and 100, considered always abuse. So that's where I was like, are people over exaggerating? Or perhaps they're not really thinking about the training use case. They are thinking about people just, kicking their dog because they're mad about something and the dog didn't do anything wrong, but they just want to, hurt something. Maybe that's what they were thinking of. But yeah, I think I put this as a sometimes. That was my answer. I definitely don't think physically punishing your dog is always abuse. So I don't know if we got people that are just like really kind of strong on this, or if they were kind of reading into this something different than what I was when I made the question. The other thing I thought was interesting is that the big difference in like animal being left in a hot car versus being left out in the cold. I would have thought these are kind of like the opposites, but people felt being left in a hot car was a lot more often abuse than being left out in the cold. And there was a good discussion in the comments about it really depends on the breed. Sometimes, a breed that has really like double coat is more comfortable out in the cold. But again, I think what people read in here is, somebody leaving their pet in a hot car, on a hot summer day for maybe hours. Whereas, if my dog Wookie is not here right now, sometimes he is. Sometimes in the summer, I'll be driving, have the air conditioning on, and then pull up to the grocery store and want to go grab something, and I'll just keep the windows up and it's cool in there, and I'm back in 5 minutes, and Wookie's doing great. It's fine. So it's not always, I don't think it's always abuse, but depending on how you kind of interpreted that. But people, I thought, were kind of more willing to say always on this stuff than I expected. Okay. Now we're getting a little bit outside the realm of pets. So we've been talking about pets more or less up until this point, but I wanted to go a little bit broader, or at least kind of dip my toes in a broader question of animal abuse. So I asked about, do you feel badly about these types of animals are treated? Zoo animals, circus animals, wild animals that are hunted, and factory farm animals. Factory farm animals being, if you're not familiar with the term, I'm guessing like Tyson chicken, where they have just like animals that live their whole life in cages and are just like overfed and like pumped full of antibiotics and hormones and have a terrible life, and then just get butchered and turned into frozen chicken breasts in Walmart. That's what I think of with that. So people feel the worst, though, about circus animals. I would have thought factory farm would be the worst, but people felt worse, most bad about circus animals and least bad about wild animals that are hunted. So let's break that down this way again. So red is you feel bad, yes. Yellow is I sort of feel bad, and no is I don't feel bad about these things. So we got two that are, pretty strong. Yes, a lot of people, majority feel bad. And then we got two that are less. I think the only thing that really stood out to me particularly here was how big this yellow area is on zoo animals. It's the biggest one. I think that shows like indecision or being on the fence. People aren't totally sure how they feel about zoo animals. They're not like definitively, yes, I feel bad about them, though there's still a lot of people that feel that way. They're not definitively, no, I don't feel bad about them. They're like, I don't know. So I thought that was interesting too. All right, now let's get big picture, reel it back. Animal abuse as a topic at large or as a broad issue, how concerned are you about it, and should more be done? So remember, we've got very big animal lovers that have pets, grew up with pets, have a lot of pets, many of them. And it looks like here 85% about are very or extremely concerned about animal abuse. And then the group that's not concerned is less than 5%. There's a somewhat concerned group that's 15. So concerned, clearly. And then do they believe more should be done to prevent animal abuse where they live? Big majority on yes, absolutely. More should be done where I live. That, yes, absolutely, at 70% is bigger than this extremely concerned at approaching 55%. To me, that difference is saying that even if you're not one of the people that feels, you're not like really freaking out about this, like you're not extremely concerned, you still feel like absolutely we have to do better on this. So it's not just the more extreme, or the people that just, have the strongest feelings really feel like we need to do better. There's a bigger group that feels like we need to do better. You can kind of see this a little clearer on this chart, I think, if you can wrap your head around it. So each of these sections is the group that answered based on concern. So this is the extremely concerned group. This is the proportion within that group that answered about should we do more. So like 90+% of the extremely concerned people said yes, absolutely. And then we got a couple down here, but yeah, pretty much everybody that's extremely concerned says, yeah, we need to do better. If you're very concerned, we're approaching 60% yes, absolutely, and about, also over 90 between yes and yes, absolutely. So what I think is interesting is the somewhat concerned group. I think of these kind of like undecided voters in an election. They're not, they haven't fully made up their mind where they stand on this, or they're like, I don't know, yeah, a little bit, I'm not sure. But what these somewhat concerned people think is, I think maybe a judge, if you're an elected official like TJ, you want to do what you think is right, but you also want to know that people are behind you as much as possible. And what would make you want to be bold and do something is if you felt like, I think, the somewhat concerned people agree with you. So if you've got the somewhat concerned people on your side, I think that you're going to be okay. This isn't really a controversial thing that you need to waste a lot of time and effort on per se. And these people are what is this? 60% yes, 30% maybe, less than 10% no. So you've got a lot of support here, and a lot of people that are like open to it, essentially. So I think that if I was TJ, I think I would interpret this as I think this is full steam ahead. You know, there's some people that aren't at all concerned, so they don't think anything needs to happen, and that's to be expected, I think. But that's a small group. That's a very small group. At least in this sample. Again, this isn't the average Idaho voter, but these are the people that really care about this one way or another, enough to answer a survey anyway. Okay, let's put it in a broader context, especially for like an elected official. Let's rank this issue compared to other issues that, you know, affect residents and that government might want to do something about. So I asked about animal abuse, drug enforcement, zoning and permitting, traffic and parking, and land conservation. This was randomized, by the way, the ordering. So it's not everybody had this first. And animal abuse was number one. Okay. Let's take it with a grain of salt, though. I mean, these are the most motivated people to talk about animal abuse, and they all have a ton of pets. So these are probably your most motivated people that care about this issue. But it's a big group of them, 800 people, and it's not like we spent a ton of money getting this in front of everybody. But it's not a random sample, okay? And also, of all these people that are already really interested in this topic, they're kind of just been primed to think about this as an important thing as they've gone through this survey. So I think even these people in a different context might be reeled back in a little bit, but I think for these people, certainly it would still be very, very important. So, you know, all that to say, fact remains, of these 822 people, they think it's really important, more important than these other things. So, and that we need to do better, and they're really concerned. So I think that's plenty justification to think about this long and hard as something that TJ wants to work on. And I think, you know, if he's got now more ammunition backing this up than he has ever had on any, like, something like this. So this is way better than like the anecdotes that leaders often have to make decisions based off of normally. Okay. I'm not going to go through these comments, but I really encourage you to check them out. I learn so much every time I read these comments. It's probably the best part. The charts are cool, and that's a bit, you know, huge part about what I'm trying to do. But these comments are the words of the respondents, their own words, their own thoughts on what's important and what's not important, and in a lot of cases, their own experiences. A lot of these are personal. They're talking about something that they experienced or that happened to them or happened to their neighbor, and you should check it out. So do that. We've got a section here on what gets too much attention about animal abuse. And we've got a what doesn't get enough attention. And these ones are really good. And I thought an appropriate GIF was a little puppy abusing a cat's ear. It's a little light, but I feel like we could use that after this topic. If you don't buy it, make it better. If you think that our results are bogus because we didn't hear from everybody, like Idahoans don't really think that, you could be right. I would encourage you, please, to participate. Make your voice heard. If you think there's other people that think differently than the people we heard from, please invite them to participate. The more data we get, the more participation we get, the bigger positive impact this can be. The better everybody will understand, and the easier it'll be to kind of do something about these things, whatever the right thing is. And what's next? Got a few surveys coming up. I won't go into them, but these are some of the things on the docket. And I asked people what should make Idaho better research next. These are some of the key phrases that people put in that form. So anyway, thanks a lot. Stay tuned for next time, and do your part.